Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jason.
And I'm Devin.
This show is a nonlinear and unfiltered exploration of people and their thoughts.
Welcome to the Thought Safari. What's it been? It's been 12 years since we first laid eyes upon each other.
Man, has it been that long already? Yeah.
July of 2012.
Yeah.
So just like, obviously we've provided some color and some context to kind of some background when it comes to group school, but would love to get your perspective on, how you met us and us meeting you and kind of your perspective on that brief time in Hartford, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah. That was actually really interesting because going up there, that was my second time being sent to Hartford for the summer for work. Mm-hmm. So when I started out at the company about 5 years before that, I had to go to Hartford for 3 months of training. Same thing, just stayed at a hotel outside of the city instead of downtown like we did. And it was really interesting. It was really exciting at the time because it was so new. It was my first, travel for work situation, especially living somewhere else for several months. So I was just youthful and excited and just so different. So fast forward to when I met y'all, I had gone through a couple of departments and then I got promoted into the position that allowed me to go back up to Hartford and meet you lovely gentlemen. And at the time, I was so ready for change. I was so hungry for something different that I didn't know what to expect. I just knew I was ready. I was ready to jump in. I was just like, I need this. Whatever this is, I need it. I was afraid of getting into sales because it's never really been my forte. I'm very laid back when it comes to that kind of stuff. It's like, hey, here's this thing for sale. And they're like, I don't want it. And I'm like, okay. So I don't really do the managing objections thing very well. I'm just kind of like, okay, I understand. I don't want everything either. Mm-hmm. But being in that class and having a chance to just kind of open up and meet you guys, all the exercises that we did, that getting up and speaking in front of the group, I think it actually helped me out a lot once it came to actually doing the job. Jumping in the car, driving 3 hours to run a meeting and dealing with objections, dealing with angry members, all of that stuff. I think that experience that I had in that class with you guys, I think it gave me the thing that I needed to get out there and interact with people. And I had some really great moments, really angry people that I turned into very happy customers by the end of the day. So I was really proud of those things. I will admit that the travel became a little difficult for me.
You're talking about like once you got out of group school and you were in your sales role?
That was rough. That was rough for me personally at the time anyway. I'm not a morning person, so having to get up at 4 a.m. to drive 4 hours to barely make it on time for a meeting was just not fun. And I think I also started to miss my family. Moving to a state I'd never lived in before and being away from my family. I think I just started to have a moment there. But overall...
And where did you go right after Connecticut, remind me?
I moved back to D.C. area.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, moved back to D.C. area. Yeah. But overall, I know it was a transformative period in my life. There's things that you guys remind me of sometimes that we did or that we said, and I just laugh. Like, man, I don't remember that, but that sounds amazing. Like that. There's like those pockets of joy, those blips of light, the sunshine just coming through the window. You guys provided a lot of that, so I always appreciate that.
Do you remember the sketch that you, Devin, and I did? So we had to come up with a role play scenario. I want to say it was like we were there as the Aetna rep. We had a broker, and then there was some sort of like customer complaint. And then we had to go through the Aetna provider finder. Do you remember that story?
I remember doing sketches, but I don't remember this particular one.
So basically, we did this sketch where I think you might have been the client. And so basically Devin and I were like, oh, hey, what's going on, whatever. And you were like, I'm pissed off. My wife's gynecologist isn't in the network. And we're like, well, we have this provider finder. Do you want us to, look them up for you? Like, just, see what's going on. And then you're like, well, yeah, man. I mean, okay, well, let's look it up. And then we were like, all right, so what's the guy's name? And you go, oh, his name is Dr. Felter. And then we literally just kept repeating it over and over. And we're like, Felter. And you're like, yeah, Felter. Felter with like a PH. No, Felter, F. Felter, Felte.
That happened. And we got cut short and pulled in the hallway. And Reshma was like, are y'all fucking serious? And we were like, what are you talking about? And she's like, you know exactly what you're doing.
Man.
She's like, that's dangerous innuendo, boys. And we were like,
And
what do you
everyone in the
what do you
class
mean?
was like, what did they do wrong? Like half the class had no idea.
Oh man. Ooh. That's good stuff. I don't remember.
100%.
Yeah, I would like to take credit for it, Abe, but I'm sure it was all you're doing.
Oh my gosh.
I would probably agree with that. With that said, that's beautiful. That's beautiful memories. So I'm going to lead us off with the first question we ask every guest. What do you know more about than most people on the planet? It could be anything. It does not have to be more than everyone. What do you know more about than most people on the planet?
I would probably say romance languages and their structure. It's probably in the conversation.
Where did that begin? Like, did you just go down a language journey at a particular age?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's because my parents are immigrants from Nigeria, and I'm first generation born in America. So I grew up hearing another language my entire life. So I was always used to having two languages jumping around in my head, even though I wasn't quite fluent in my parents' language. They're Yoruba, but they speak a dialect called Ondo. And I don't speak it very well. I understand it. I know what they're saying. I just respond in English when they speak. But because of that, I'm just used to hearing things in another language. I'm used to sentences being structured in a different way. I'm used to tenses being formed differently, all of those kinds of things. And when my mom went to school to enroll me in middle school, she called me at the house and said, hey, you have to pick a foreign language. And at the time I was like, well, I'm going to guess that most people would pick Spanish. So I'm going to pick French just to be different. And that kind of started my journey. I ended up taking French for 8.5 years. And I also, because I just was so intrigued, so fascinated once I got into French, I started to study Spanish. I have 5.5 years of Spanish. I have about 2.5 years of Italian. And I actually studied abroad at my college's campus in Rome. So I got into it kind of on a whim, and it just never stopped.
So
That's a lot of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and how many? So that's four. Is English a Romance language?
No, it's
or it's Germanic.
My primary understanding is that it would be French, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, and Romanian, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Catalan, Aromanian, Galician, Galician.
I think that might be a Spanish, like a dialect in Spain. I think that is.
So how many, do you speak any languages other than those? Or do you speak those all fluently? That's what, 4 languages?
I can definitely have conversations in all of those languages. When I was in Italy, I didn't have any problems communicating with anyone. And that was just a few months ago. Anytime I go to a Spanish-speaking country, restaurant, anything, I'm 100%. I'm in there. No problem.
So you're super confident speaking English, French, Spanish, Italian. You can understand your parents' Nigerian dialect, which is called what you said again?
Ondo.
Ondo.
O-N-D-O. Yep.
Okay.
It's a dialect.
And then anything else for the fans out there?
That's it. That's it for right now. But I have been
That's
contemplating
unbelievable.
learning other languages. Yeah, I think about learning Portuguese. I've thought about learning maybe Mandarin, something like that. Those would be more of a challenge because I'd have to learn a different alphabet, but I would be down.
For Mandarin, you would have to, but Portuguese would have some crossover, correct?
Yeah, for sure. There'd be a lot of
So once
crossover.
you knew, like, say French was your foundational romance language, if you will,
Yeah,
did you find it easier to pick up nuances in Spanish, Italian, that sort of thing?
100%. I
Yeah.
was able to apply. So I'd say, okay, forming that verb tense is exactly the same in those languages. Or I'd see the differences or the similarities rather in the roots of the words. I'd notice, okay, in French it's this, in Spanish it's this, in Italian it's this. They're all very similar. Maybe a letter or two is different, but it was the same. So that allowed me to learn the new words and the new languages pretty quickly. And I actually can read a lot of Portuguese because of it, even though I don't speak it. So I don't necessarily know how it's pronounced, but I can read it and know what it means.
That's wild.
Do you
Yeah.
think and or dream in any other languages other than English?
I don't know. I don't recall any dreams in other languages, but I absolutely think in other languages to the point that sometimes for example, when I want to order something at a restaurant, sometimes I think it first in Spanish and I have to change to English to order. Or I think of a word in Italian when I mean to do it in Spanish. Or, I think of something
Oh
in
my
French.
God.
I just, sometimes it comes to me in the other language first, and then I have to stop myself and go, okay, what language do I want to say that in? And run it back.
Jason's mind is blown right now because we recently had a conversation about, well, my parents being from South Africa. And so in my house, while we spoke English, my parents have a pretty thick accent. And when I talk to them, my accent comes in. And Jason asked me the same question. And I was like, I don't really know. But the fact that you just said yes, you think in another language has Jason's mind completely exploded.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's so because I feel like okay, I dated a French girl not terribly long ago, a couple of years ago, and I'm curious if you find that to be exhausting because I know she did. So she was, because French was her first language, and she was constantly translating things all day long. And she worked in retail. So by the time she got home, she would just be completely wiped. So it was probably that and nothing I did that ended the relationship. Thanks a lot, Flo. But yeah, so it was, but I remember that like she would come home and just be exhausted because all day long, the mental energy that she had to spend to constantly be translating things was pretty extensive. So yeah, I can't even imagine walking around thinking anything other than English, let alone like
Yeah.
Dermite. Like, and then you even said like what you said. Then I have to think about what language I want to say it in. Like, what a fucking problem that is. Like, like as far as good problems to have actually, because like I mean, dude, you could be sitting on the subway and somebody could be talking shit, and you'll be like, "Yo," you give them that like side eye, like, "Yeah, don't you fucking, what are you talking about my beard for, man? You get off me."
Well, luckily, when I overhear people talking about my beard, it's usually good things. So, knock on wood.
Oh, it's in Mexico, I bet.
Oh my god, dude, you must overheat with that thing.
Man, yeah, especially because in Mexico, the part of Mexico where I am, they tend not to, historically, the Mayan people just tend not to grow that kind of facial hair. So, fall guy, big beard, and I've cut the beard a lot since I moved here. Used to be a lot more like Devin's. And yeah, but it made people remember me because sometimes I go to a place and I hadn't been there for 8 months and they'd recognize me and I go, oh, that's strange. My friends would be like, nobody in this town looks like you. So it's
Yeah, you
not
look a
that
little different
difficult.
than most people.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like the
Yeah.
kids when they're drawing on that like magnetic thing, like the kids down there are so used to putting the hair up top, and for you they have to move all the magnets down to the bottom.
The to your point earlier, the translation fatigue is what I call it. I don't know if there's an actual term, but I call it translation fatigue, where after a while it would just get really hard because I'm like, oh man, I have to keep thinking in another language. But I think that after being here as long as I have, it started to sink in to where I don't have to think like that. To where sometimes I think in Spanish and then I say the words and then I stop and go, let me check that in the translator just to make sure I said that right, because that was too easy. but it's always right. It's like, oh no, you really just thought first in that language and said it without thinking. And that's kind of my
Well, and I
ultimate
guess you're
goal
there every
whenever
day, so that doesn't hurt, right?
it doesn't. And I still have my tutor from, I started with a tutor before I moved here because I wanted to brush up like really formal conversational kind of stuff, brush up on my tenses so that when I came here, I'd be able to communicate a little bit more easily. And I decided to stick with her after I got here because those conversations, when I'm in the house working all day and maybe don't have a chance to interact with people, I know I can rely on having those conversations with her 2 or 3 times a week just to keep my skills up.
Okay, so I have a French specific question for you because I've actually done some level of research on this and I've never understood how this word works. But my ex-girlfriend in some good situations and some not used to use the word putain. What is up with that word? Because it like seems like it could be good, it could be bad, but it's like then I said it to somebody who speaks French and they were horrified by it. So maybe
Yeah.
like I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, not a good word. So remember when I
Jason just
said
thought
that?
she meant something nice by it.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was like the way that I thought it was like, oh, putain, was just like, oh, fuck. But when I said it to the guy, he was like, dude, he legitimately was like, dude, that is not how that word works. So I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean,
So remember when I was saying that I can recognize like the root sort of similarities of words between languages? So puta, think about puta in Spanish. It's essentially the same word. So
oh,
that's what they were hearing when you said that.
oh my God, dude, I feel so bad. Cause yeah, dude, cause I thought I was like making this like cool connection because it was
Yeah,
like, I know this fun word.
it's
And
colloquialism.
he did not have a good time with it. And
Yeah.
I didn't obviously mean anything by it, but yeah, it was not a good one. Do you have a language? So of the ones that you speak or speak fluently, are there ones that feel more at home for you? So like you're in that country where that's natively spoken. Like, is it easier for you to speak French, Spanish of the ones that are non-English?
Um, yeah, Spanish for sure is the easiest one for me to pull out. But when I was in Italy, I hadn't studied Italian in 22 years, and I was still having conversations with people. So I would have said that there's no way that I could pull out Italian in a scenario like that, but I did. And I was shocked at how well I was able to express myself. So I think it can be situational to your point about being in a place where the language is primarily spoken. Or, sometimes I might not even have to go to the country or go to a country where it's spoken. Sometimes it could be like I'm in an Italian restaurant and I can hear the waiter has an Italian accent. So then, boom, it just comes right back to me. Sometimes when I'm at a hotel and I hear maybe the cleaning staff, maybe there's some Latino people on the cleaning staff and I hear them speaking Spanish, boom, comes right back to me. It's just situational, I think, where I hear something that triggers it, or maybe I hear someone trying to speak English and I can tell it's not their first language, and I go, sounds like their language might be this one. Maybe I can make their experience a little bit easier or more comfortable if I speak their language. And as soon as I do that, the tone of the conversation changes. You can see the ease settle over their bodies. I live for that. Absolutely live for that.
Yeah, dude, you hit us
So,
with the old Latino. Like you were just like,
okay.
it was just English and you said that and I was like, oh,
So that leads me to a question that Jason and I discussed previously. If you're speaking English and say you're at an Italian restaurant because you know how to speak Italian, do you in English pronounce certain Italian words like Italians would pronounce them without speaking Italian? Example,
100.
mozzarella.
100%. I actually
100%.
struggled once I learned a language. I actually struggled to not say the words those way. So I'm like mozzarella, like it comes out that way.
Yes.
And it's not to
Yes, it
be,
does.
and it's not even to be funny or like pretentious or anything. It's just once I've learned it, I can't turn it off. So I just start
Sure.
saying it that way. Or like you know
Yeah.
how there's a lot of Italian words that in America we have kind of anglicized and they have a different sound here. I read them like they're Italian. I don't even think about how we normally say it. I'm just like, okay, this is Italian, so it's this. So that has caused some confusion with people, especially people's last names. So, there's people like Italian people in the States that pronounce their last name a certain way. And that's kind of like been passed down a few generations since they've come to the US. But I
And
read it and I just
Americanized
go,
for sure.
oh, it's this. And they're
Yeah.
like, no. I'm like,
And you're like, yeah, your great grandfather, it was for sure that.
yeah. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be rude or mean or anything. I'm just reading it as it appears to me using the Italian alphabet. So that is a struggle too, because it's like I want to respect the way that you pronounce your name. So if I hear them say something different, I'll say it that way. But in the back of my head, I'm kind of replacing what I know to be the pronunciation. So that is a challenge. But yeah, 100%. I'll be ordering a drink and I'll say margarita. I won't say margarita anymore because my brain it's been replaced with margarita. And that's how I say it every time now.
Yeah, dude.
So second part to that question, clearly, this guy has no Spanish and no Italian in me whatsoever. If I go to a Mexican restaurant and order a margarita, is it frowned upon? Do I seem like a douche if I say margarita? Or is that me trying to honor the proper pronunciation? Or is it like, shut up, you white American?
So, no, that's a good question, though. That is a good question. I will say that a lot of people appreciate when you make the effort to speak their language. I had an Uber driver, and this was actually in Texas. I had an Uber driver, and I could hear her accent. So I just jumped right into Spanish. And by the end of the ride, she was like, thank you so much for putting in effort to learn our language, because like I really appreciate that. A lot of times people here in Mexico, they'll be like, oh, I'm really trying to learn English so I can communicate better with customers who speak English, but it's really hard for me. I don't understand it. And I get it. We have the structure of the language in Spanish is so much more concrete than it is in English, as far as I'm concerned. There's less, if you try to teach someone the difference between how to pronounce laugh and how to pronounce daughter, even though that grouping of letters is the same, the words sound completely different. For someone trying to learn a language, you can teach them that blend and it just won't make sense because they'll try to pronounce it the same way. Whereas in Spanish, if you see the letters, they come together the same way every time. So sometimes I feel bad for them because I'm like, I get it. If I didn't learn English first, it would probably be a lot harder for me to pick it up.
So the one that gave me the most anxiety, so I studied French in college, and I don't even want to say it because I feel like I'm going to sound so stupid saying it, but I've never been able to get my mouth to properly say avoir, because I'm always like o or how do you say it? Like I feel dumb even trying. I'm not even. I swear to God, I'm not trying to be funny.
No, I got you.
But like as I think of it, like flowing, it's like avoir. But how are you supposed to pronounce? Like, how do I do that?
Okay, so it is au revoir, but when people say it, they say it kind of fast, so it just sounds like au revoir.
So there's like the R is there in the beginning, but it's not like, it's obviously not a hard R, but it would still be like au revoir.
Yeah, and the R, the R comes from like your throat, because in English we use like more of our teeth to make the R sound, like R, like that. But theirs is so it's back in your throat. So that's the big difference.
Oh, so it's like a kind of. I mean, I'm not going to spend the whole podcast doing this, but yeah, I always felt dumb. And dude, to Dev's question, it's so funny because like, and also what I really liked was you cannot, like, you sounded like you were making fun of English when you said margarita. You were like, I can't say it like margarita. Like, we don't say that. But I feel like that's how other people feel. And like Dev, it was so funny because when he was going back and forth, because like he was trying to explain it to me and he was speaking as he would speak to his parents. And it was so funny because I've never heard him speak like that. Like I've always heard an accent, but I never knew kind of what it was.
Same.
And then once he started doing it and the machine started gaining momentum, he like couldn't get out of it. Like there were some words where he was stuck in it,
stuck
and then
in
he was
limbo.
like,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's so fun. So the fun thing is because my brain has now transformed the way that word is pronounced, I actually have to like force myself to not say it that way. And that's why it came out that way, because it's like Mark, or like, how do we say it in English?
Yeah.
Like I couldn't
Like
even
not you
remember.
mean like how to say it more American and not the
Yeah,
authentic way.
yeah. Like I was
Yeah.
like, how did I used to say it? Like I had to try to find it. So that's why it came out so hilarious. But yeah, to Devin's point, there's some people who really appreciate the effort to say it. I think it's just all about your intention, right? Because some people you can tell there's a little bit of condescension in the way that they say things, the way that they communicate to people. And having known y'all as long as I have, I never expect that to be the case. So I don't think that it'll ever be perceived as, you being a dick.
Yeah, I mean, I always try to say it the right way. Like I'm not running around like I'll have one margarita. But yeah, I do. But it's like I feel self-conscious
you are.
about it because it's like,
You live in San Francisco.
okay, I'll be honest. If I am ordering the first one, I don't do that. That seems pretty fair. If I'm ordering like pitchers, then I'm for sure I do one of these, and then I'm an asshole. And I don't want to be, but just kind of how it goes. So Abe, one of the most interesting things about language to me, and I'm very curious what your thoughts are on this. So I want to ask you a direct question on it. Let me think about it for a second. Okay. Are you funny in all the languages you speak? And the reason I ask that is from what I understand, the humor in each of the different languages, or maybe it's more country than language. So maybe explain that. Like, is humor dependent on language or country? And are you funny in the different languages?
Wow, that's a really good question. I do think sense of humor does vary a little bit from country to country, culture to culture, but I do think that there's still some things that carry all the way through. Like sarcasm works everywhere. Hyperbole works
I was going to
everywhere.
ask that.
So I use hyperbole sometimes, or I'll say something, and I think people don't expect me to joke because they know it's not necessarily my primary language. So I don't think they're listening for me to say something ridiculous, but I do it all the time. And once they catch it, they start laughing. So I think it's there. It's just sometimes, maybe my sense of humor might not translate directly, or maybe the words that I use might not translate directly. So got to find that sweet spot.
Just the bilingual stealthy comedian where people are like, did you just make a joke? He made a joke. It worked.
Yeah.
It's like people are expecting me to like ask them where the baño is, and then all of a sudden I'm like whipping out jokes in different languages. You gotta teach us. I'm like, I gotta be funny in at least 3 languages. I feel like as a single guy, it'll help me a lot.
It's actually a good plan. I like that.
That's why we brought you here, bud.
Abe can be your tutor.
Yeah, man. Anytime, let me know.
Friends in Mexico.
Yeah, absolutely.
So speaking of other languages, I don't want to take us too far off track, but I thought about this earlier. What are your love languages?
Wow. So my primary love languages are, and I forget the names of them, but like the physical contact and quality time. Those are my 2. That's like my 1A and 1B. Everything else is just way down on the scale, especially the gifts. I'm not a big gift receiver. And it used to be because I think it's because I grew up very, 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 very modestly in DC, that I'm not used to having things, and I don't really crave things. I crave the experiences. I crave the time with people that I care about. I crave the conversations. I crave the laughs, the joy. I crave those moments more than anything. I would much rather go sit at a cafe with someone and just get to know them than for them to give me, I don't know, a bottle of tequila. And don't get me wrong, I'll take down some tequila, but it's not my primary motivation,
Do you, so Are you a tequila or mezcal guy?
I used to be tequila. Like I would get a bottle of Terramana during COVID, and I just put that thing on a nice whiskey rock and just sip it
Hmm.
slow. But since coming down to Mexico, I've been drinking a lot more mezcal. I always enjoyed kind of the smokiness, like having a deeper flavor profile. But when I got here, I met people who were like, imagine like a sommelier, but for mezcal. And they teach
Yep.
you this is where this mezcal came from, this is how it's made, this is the traditional way to taste it. So they tell you for that particular mezcal, this is how you roll it on your tongue, this is how you sip it back. They teach you the way to really take in a full aroma, like get the full body of the mezcal. And once I did that, changed everything. I went to a distillery on a tour, like give me everything. So now, give me
Hey Jay,
a
we're going to
margarita with
Mexico.
mezcal.
Yeah, dude. Well,
We're
I
going
will
to
tell you.
Mexico.
I'll tell you this about Mexico. So I'm up in, close to like the Napa Sonoma Valley area, and I've done a lot of wine tastings in my day, but I never left a tasting as sideways as I did when we did a mezcal and tequila tasting down in, I want to say it was Cabo for one of my buddy's bachelor parties. Buddy, I mean, I honestly thought I was on a different planet when I left there cuz like I guess it's cheap enough down there and they just like it's flowing and I love mezcal
Yeah.
and I mean getting extra pours of that shit is it can be very brutal. I
But
have a okay, so I want to oh, unless you were going to add something real
yeah, I was
quick.
just gonna ask how'd you feel the next day after you drank it?
Okay, so I'm not going to transition real quick cuz I found out I have a tequila superpower. So I used to get really bad hangovers. I used to get like anxiety, like I would just be crawling in my skin the next day. I started experimenting, and by experimenting, I mean that one night I just so happened to drink a boatload of tequila. I woke up the next day and I felt shockingly fantastic. So I don't know if that's just a tequila thing in general or me and the way my body processes it, but I enjoy being drunk on tequila more than other liquors or more than even beer or wine. And I also feel so much better the next day if
Yeah,
I'm drinking tequila, even more so tequila than mezcal, but I feel I'm like superhuman on it and I'm pretty okay the next day off it.
that's why I asked because I noticed the same thing too. I don't know if it's every tequila, if like a well one wouldn't have the same impact, but I've noticed that if you drink a halfway decent tequila, next day you wake up and totally fine.
Oh, dude.
Do you
Yeah.
think
I mean,
that's like
it's,
is that part of the process as far as like how clean it is and what it is versus it being and Jason, did you find that when you mix it, say in margarita versus on the rocks? Because I'm sure the sugar has a big impact as well.
yeah. So from what I understand, part of it is the way it is processed, part of it is the way our body processes it. And if I'm mixing it, I'm in shit city like I am with anything else. But if I drink it neat, and even if it's a lower grade tequila, but certainly as Abe's saying, like if you're like middle tier or higher, and especially once you go up into the highest tiers, I mean it's incredible how much better I feel than I do when I'm drinking America brown water. So yeah, it's it's just a much better experience. So speaking of tequila and something you said earlier, Abe, so you were talking about your love languages, quality time, and tequila. I don't really drink it. Well, I don't really drink it all by myself, but tequila is a very like friend group kind of thing and a nice little rally point. So the question for you is, what role do you play in your friend group? And before you answer, as Dev and I have been exploring this with other people, we started thinking about it less like we used to. So before it was more every group has, the planner, the socialite, the degenerate. But then we think about it more in terms of like you're a Boy Scout, Girl Scout, and you wear different badges. So the by way of example, like I've got the math badge. I've got, the gray hair funny guy badge. Devin, good golfer badge, sets the vibe badge, plays banger music badge, and he also likes to grill. What badges do you wear? What's on your sash in your friend group?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I think So, and you kind of alluded to it earlier. I think one of the things I do, and I do it more when I drink, is that I will be sneakily funny. Like, I'll say something that people don't expect me to say, and they'll just bust out laughing like I was not expecting that. So I will do that. I've never been an angry drunk. That's not my thing. But I will be funny. Not like in the class clown way. Still more kind of reserved like I normally am, or calm like I normally am. But I'll just bust out some random shit. What else?
Definitely
I
the
think
translator.
yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So we talked about translation fatigue. That was a big one. We'd be out and people would just keep coming to me like, hey, can you translate this? What are they saying? Can you tell them this? And I'm like, it's hard enough to keep being an intermediary when I'm sober, but when I'm three sheets to the wind and you guys keep fucking me, it's like, I just want to
Leave me the fuck
like, don't
alone.
kill my vibe, man. I just want to enjoy the ride, and y'all.
You got the "Don't Kill My Vibe" badge.
Yeah, man, that's the one. That's the one. What else?
Oh, and this doesn't have to be an only when you're drunk question, by the way. The tequila was more a friend thing than, but if you want to answer how you are drunk, I mean, that's a fine answer for us as well.
Yeah, had to throw that one in there for sure.
I was like, I hope he knows like the question can be like answered as a sober person too.
You know what? The other thing is I'm the go with the flow guy. I may not always have a suggestion on where to go, especially if it's a place that I'm not familiar with. But if there's at least one person who's interested and they don't want to go alone, I'm very likely to be the person that'll go with them so that they have someone. I actually did that in Chicago 2 weeks ago. One of my friends, she was the only one who was down to go out, and nobody else wanted to go. And I was like, "Come on, girl, I'll go with you. Let's go. Let's go have fun." We ended up walking to the place, and we saw how long the line was, and we said, "Oh no, fuck that!" And we went to McDonald's instead. And drunkenly ate fries, but I'm down. I won't let you feel alone, I think. And that's not even just a drinking thing. Is I don't want to leave. I don't want people to feel alone. I want people to feel seen. So I try to check in with people. I try to show up for people. That's me.
Do you ever engage in what I will call DJ Khaled jokes? So like, because I feel like you're the type of guy. And I kind of remember this. It's funny because like I'm like re-meeting you / like remembering exactly who you were in group school, and like you were always that guy that you would never necessarily be the loudest or use the most words, but whenever you did speak, the record would skip and everyone would be like, "Holy shit, that was either the most like prophetic or like wonderful thing I've ever heard." So back to DJ Khaled. I feel like you every once in a while will drop like a God did or like another one. And then that is all you say for like the next 20 minutes.
You might be onto something there. You might be onto something. I do say things and don't realize that they resonate with people. Like you guys have done it. You brought something up that I said a long time ago, even earlier today, that made you laugh or made you think or whatever it was. My brother's done it. He maybe last year, like, "Hey man, you remember when I was 16 and you told me blah blah blah? That changed my life." I'm like, "What? I don't remember saying that." But it had such an impact on him that he never forgot, and that's important to me because we all go through life and we go through our ups and downs, and sometimes that mark we leave is not a positive one. So knowing that I have left positive marks on people is really important to me. And to that effect, part of my healing journey down here, I started taking yoga classes, and I found it so empowering and so peaceful that I went on through to become a yoga instructor. So I'm one lesson away from being a certified yoga instructor.
That's amazing.
And the first class that I ever taught was a yin yoga sequence. And afterwards, first of all, I made my instructor fall asleep. And a couple of people told me how, yeah, that's like a badge of honor for me. I made you feel so emotionally safe and relaxed that you were able to fall asleep. Think
That
about
does not
how
surprise me
anxious
at
we
all.
are. Think about how jumpy our nerves get and how stressed out we get. So that 5 minutes or whatever it was, all of that went to the wayside and you were able to fall asleep. So from here on out, if I can make people fall asleep in my yoga classes, I'm going to be a happy camper. But
Buddy,
people will
I'm
tell
coming to
me, like,
Mexico and we're
afterward,
drinking mezcal,
come
tequila,
on,
and I'm doing some yoga.
Yes.
mezcal and yoga, let's do it, man. Just
Dude,
knowing that I could have that impact on people in that way is like, it's amazing. And they tell me they like my voice. One of the things I never really loved hearing, people, some people are like, oh, I see myself on camera or I hear my voice, and it's like, who is that person? I'm one of those people. But then people are like, oh, I loved it. I could listen to you all day. Like, let's go. They like taking my
Buddy,
class,
I'm
and that's amazing.
34 years old and I've met a lot of people. You have my favorite voice I've ever heard.
Wow.
dude, actually, Abe, I have a business idea for you. My day would be so much better if you sat next to me on my, well, first of all, if you were just here, my day would be better. But if you read to me all my work emails, because I get so flustered when I'm reading them, and I would feel like I would be so calm if your voice was just expressing the bullshit that other people are trying to bring into my life.
Wow.
Maybe you should
Making
do
it
that. Like,
sound so nice and friendly.
yeah, like voiceovers, but exclusively work emails. Like you partner with like Microsoft or something.
Yeah. Get Garmin on the phone.
There's like an
Wow.
Abe plugin.
That's amazing. I'm honored to hear that from both of you. Yeah, it's one of the things that I won't say I hated my voice. I just was never excited by it. And lately I've been hearing so many positive things about it and about how soothing it is or how relaxing it is or anything.
I can't believe you're only just hearing this. I knew this shit
Yeah,
12
what are
years
you
ago.
talking about?
The first
Yeah,
time I
dude.
heard you talk, I was like, yeah, buddy.
Dude, you honestly, you know those like head scratcher things? You did
Yeah.
that to my soul when you
Oh
spoke.
man.
Like I was just like, you got me in my feels.
Wow, man.
Talking about health insurance, and I'm like, yeah, talk to me about it some more.
Oh man, just the deductible thing one more time, Abe, please.
Yeah.
Honestly, dude, though, like
Are we
Dev's
talking
right, man.
embedded or
Like you.
aggregate? Which one? Just
Oh, well, there's something for everyone in there.
Yeah, man.
This doesn't need to
Yeah,
be an
no
insurance show, Abe. Okay, calm down over there, underwriter.
He's definitely awarded the soothing voice badge.
100%, dude. 100%. Like when you speak, I smell lavender. Like it's just, it's something about it is just really fantastic.
Thank
Is you sure it's not the color of his shirt?
It's probably the color of his shirt. Something's happening to me right now, and I'm very calm, and I'm usually not. So I don't like it.
Yeah. My bad.
Speaking of calm, Abe, what did you want to be when you were a kid? And for most people, not all people, where did you go wrong?
Wow. I think the first job that I ever really wanted was to be a firefighter. I thought it was a way to help people, and that there was a lot less possibility of uncertainty with the people I was helping. If you think about police officers, and you hear a lot of talk about the good ones and the bad ones and the things that some of them have done on both ends of the spectrum. But I always thought firefighters is just an unequivocal thing. It's like, hey, my shit's burning down, and here comes Abe to help put it out. Like, there's no question.
Yeah.
It's not like I came there to accelerate the fire. It's
The metaphor for
come to
life.
help
Now
put
you're a
this
yoga
shit out.
instructor making people fall asleep. My shit's
Yeah.
burning down.
Yeah, dude, you bring the temperature down, Abe. I like
Yeah,
that.
that's the goal. So I always thought there was a certain nobility to that profession, and I was strongly interested in it as a child. And where did I go wrong? Man,
You're afraid of cats, aren't you?
no. I don't love them, but I'm not afraid of them. I think,
Ladders. Fuck the ladders.
You fuck those ladders.
I don't know. I watched a lot of wrestling. I might not mind the ladder.
Oh, you know what it is, Abe? You don't hang out with those hoes anymore. Not that you ever
Man.
did, by the way. Had to make a
Uh,
hose joke. Sorry.
yes, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I was
Gosh,
like, Devin didn't like that one very much, but I'm glad you did.
hey,
I
I'm
loved
always
it.
here for wordplay. Always here for wordplay. No, you know what? I think it was that I found sports. I think it was that I found sports, and I just became preoccupied, especially running track. I loved it so much that instead of going to work at volunteer at the firehouse down the street from my high school, I ended up just playing 2 or 3 sports a year, and that kind of took over my life.
So, just really funny from last week. We were talking to Taylor, and he said he wanted to be an and one mixtape basketball player.
Oh man, amazing! I can absolutely see that. Dunking on people and then quoting Bible verses would have been incredible.
Dude. Oh my God.
While they're on the ground, just standing over him preaching.
Yeah.
Taylor 316 says, "I just dunked on you." That would have been perfect.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my God, dude.
That is gold.
That is beautiful. I love that
man.
so much. All right, Abe. So if there were, okay, we got a bit of a humdinger for you then. So
Yeah.
basically firefighter, and then eventually, got into sports. So I don't know where you're going to go with this next one, but there is a worldwide competition. Everyone on planet Earth gets to participate in this competition. You can't limit it based on age, race, gender, dexterity, social security number, and you have to finish in the top 10,000. What are the rules of your competition?
I fit it in the top 10,000. Wow. For the sake of simplicity, I'll just go with you got to be able to recite DMX verses. I think I could rank in that one. I think I could rank in that
That's exceptional.
So my favorite part about that was I thought you were going to say recite them in different languages, and
So
you just
did I.
said recite them.
one. Yep. Yep.
You know, whew.
I think I'm in
DMX.
the
I
conversation,
love the simplicity. Like,
Yeah.
So
just a fan. Just know all the music. You just know that you can do it.
Just a fan. Because I think he came out, so he came out while I was in high school, and him, at the time, there's a little bit of, it's not all of his songs, but some of Eminem's songs. There's a couple other people, but I think they perfectly captured the angst that I was experiencing at the time. A little bit of anger, a little bit of uncertainty and confusion, and who am I? What do I do? But also don't fuck with me. Leave me the fuck alone, kind of thing. Like he touched a lot of those different conflicting emotions that I had in my head as a teenager. So I think that plus just the time, just the nostalgia of, this guy came out of nowhere. It was just a massive superstar and made a lot of engaging music. It was just, he was just a man. And then I got to meet him because an ex-girlfriend of mine, her dad directed a film that DMX was in. And I got to go to the premiere, and I met DMX, and I will not ever forget this. What I told him when I met him was that, hey man, you're the only person whose music I've never bootlegged. And forgive my impersonation, but his response was, I appreciate that, not me. So it was something that's gonna stay up here and in here for the rest of my life.
yeah,
That's unbelievable. I can't believe you met him.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Can't-
I'm glad I got to do that, man.
I can't believe you met him. I can't believe you never bootlegged any of his music. Well, I can, given like the reverence you have for him, but also like to say that to him, it's like, dude, that's like, that's low key one of the probably the best compliments you could ever give an artist.
Oh, especially in our era, right? Like
Yeah.
Oh,
going back to high school days.
Oh my God. When I went to college in Philadelphia, and you literally come out of the subway station, and on the side of on the sidewalk, someone would have a blanket spread out with burned CDs galore, bootleg CDs
Yeah.
all over the place. That's how I sorry, Sean, but that's how I bought Jay Z's Blueprint album. It was I came out of the subway. Oh, he's here again. I looked through. I saw the Blueprint. Got it for $5.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that it
Yeah,
was
I mean,
so
I'm ashamed
widely
to admit
available.
there was a point in time where I had a binder of CDs, and I'm pretty sure they were all burned except for like two.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude. Mr. Carter is going to have a word with you after this podcast, Abe.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's pissed.
Yeah. Sorry guys. If Rock Nation shuts down the audio on this, I apologize.
Yeah.
DMX, I love it.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah,
wait
so
to hear it.
Yeah. So who else did you listen to when you were a kid? Like, what was it? I mean, DMX was the primary, but like, who were your other big musical influences?
When it came to hip hop, yeah, he was the primary. But I listened to my dad. That's the one thing we didn't have a lot in common, but when it came to our taste in music, A1, 100% got that from him. So I grew up listening to Bob Marley and Jimmy Cliff and Dolly Parton and Whitney Houston and Prince, Michael Jackson, Earth, Wind and Fire, just MC Hammer. I mean, it was just all over the place. I listened to so much. When I was growing up, one of my favorite songs was Diamonds in the Stream. Like it just a very eclectic mix of music growing up. And I actually currently still own a lot of the vinyl that he used to play at the time. So
That's awesome.
that's one thing I really appreciate that I got from him. I could listen to a lot of things. In high school, I listened to a lot of Rage Against the Machine. I listened to NSYNC. I mean, it was just Wu-Tang, Biggie. It was just all over the place, and I enjoyed it.
I
Diamond-
love the DMX, Bob Marley, Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
What a run.
Yeah, I mean, that's good for you, man. Dude, Diamonds in the Stream it was my parents' song.
Really?
Yeah, that was
Wow.
their song together when couples still had songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they were big. Dude, yeah, and I was a big like growing up. So I grew up in the Pennsylvania. I grew up in Pennsylvania, but like somewhat close to Philly. So yeah, like East Coast. Like I listened to a lot of Jay-Z growing up. I mean, Eminem was a big thing too. But yeah, dude, we all had our NSYNC days. I mean, I was a little more like, Taking Back Sunday and Dashboard Confessional with it. But like, it's always so fascinating to hear, people's different tastes in music, and like, and yours is eclectic as fuck, dude.
I loved it.
Are you
Honestly,
surprised?
we listened to pretty much everything except like hard rock. And even some of those songs slipped through. Because like in wrestling back then, before licensing music was a big deal, some people would come out to like comment songs. So the Road Warriors used to come out to Black Sabbath, Iron Man. So that song is stuck in my head. CM Punk, Chicago native, comes out to Cult of Personality. So that song is stuck in my head. So I have like these random, it's really, really wide range of music in my head.
Dude, so speaking of that, just for a really quick second, how did you feel about the whole Roman Reigns had the title for 18 straight years storyline?
At first, I didn't know that I loved it because I was just like, it's kind of feeling anticlimactic now. It's like, what's next? What's next? And it's not the first time that someone's done it. It won't be the last, I'm guessing. But I just didn't see the vision. And then the way things actually unfolded, where people were like split about if Cody Rhodes should have won or not. But when he did, the way that they did it was so incredible. The aftermath has been very downplayed, like kind of chill, but it feels like it's building back up to him returning in a different capacity than when he left. Because he actually said, when I'm gone, you're going to miss me. And people were on the fence about that. But now that he's gone and now that the storyline's playing out the way it is, I think that when he comes back, he is going to be a meteor. Like people are just gonna lose their minds when they see him. It's gonna be one of the best reactions you've ever heard in your life. So I think it was worth it to get to this point where people were kind of fatigued, and then he bowed out, and then he has a chance to come back without the burden of people wanting to see that chapter end. He doesn't have to worry about that because it's over now. He gets to come back in on the new chapter, and I think it's going to be amazing.
You think he's still going to be the head of the table?
I think there's going to be a clash between him and his cousin to see who is the head of the table. And my theory is that it will lead to a match at Survivor Series where it's his team versus his cousin's team, where maybe the winner's team takes over. That's my theory.
Okay, one maybe final wrestling question for you, but
Sure.
what is your favorite finishing move of all time, and why is it Bret the Hitman Hart's sharpshooter?
That's a good one. That is a good one. That is a good one. My sentimental favorite, and it's not because I'm wearing this shirt, is Macho Man's elbow drop, because he just made it look so pretty. It was so pretty.
Oh, dude. He
But
had like the things floating off his his arms, and he's just like
he was like a swan flying across the ring. It was gorgeous.
he was beautiful.
But I think in terms of impact, I've always had a very soft spot for the Undertaker's tombstone. Just the way he did it and the way he wrapped him up after was just.
Who did he didn't he jack somebody up? Was it Owen Hart? Was it because he was it Stone Cold? Like what was the one that went wrong?
Owen tried to do it, a seated version of it, and he didn't do it right, and Stone Cold broke his neck.
Broke his neck.
Yeah, dude, like
neck.
he gave him like
right on
the
his head.
actual move. Like it was like head into the canvas.
Yeah. So when the Undertaker does it, his knees hit first, and that takes a lot of the brunt, so your head doesn't go full force into the mat. But when Owen did it, he took his legs out from under him, so Stone Cold's head went straight into the mat.
So Dev,
I didn't know
do you
that.
know? Yeah, do you know what the finishing move looks like?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, he literally, the Undertaker knees first. This was head into the mat, dude.
Yeah.
Holy
Dude,
shit.
okay. But also, okay, so I was a Bret the Hitman Hart fan, dude. I had the goggles. I was just, dude, I loved everything about him. Sweet Chin Music was cool. The Stunner was cool.
Amazing.
I would say though, one of my favorites, and it's probably every I'm gonna do it tonight because I just remembered that this video exists. But it's like 5 straight minutes of Goldberg just spearing people. Dude, it's so elite, dude.
good one.
And that's not even the finishing move, but like his spear, because he would upend dudes. Like it was the most real, actual, there's no way to fake that move in the history of wrestling.
Yeah. And I don't think he was trying to. I think he was just like, I'm going to do this as real as possible and run through people. Yeah.
He would do that. He'd oh my God, dude, and the fucking sparks would hit him and he would just come out like an animal, dude. Oh God.
Blowing dry
I loved
ice out
him
of his
so
nose
much.
and everything. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, because of fire, and he would just like a fucking bull, man. Like he was, oh God, I love that guy. Yeah, dude. And so when we were kids, my brother and I always used to do fake wrestling matches, and we used to always the sharpshooter was a hard one to do because my brother's legs were too small, so I couldn't fold them around each other enough. So I would end up just doing the Boston Crab, and I wonder if now he has residual back problems because of it.
Oh my God. I watched so many kids get hurt in middle school doing those moves to each other, Boston Crabs and sharks.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. And figure fours.
Oh, dude, the figure, yeah. Because the figure four was an easy one to wrangle him into. Because my brother was 4 years younger than me, dude. I almost snapped his little birdie bones so many times. So when you're hearing this, Chris, I'm sorry, dude, but it was just fun as fuck.
Oh, man.
Oh
What a
my
time.
God, that's amazing.
I remember my brother's school, people were putting each other in sleeper holds, but they were doing it for real. They were actually engaged in the karate, and people were passing out. And one time, a kid passed out, and they did it in the library. Kid passes out and hits his head on the stack of books. Like, yeah,
Oh boy.
insane. So once that shit happened, they were like, "Oh nah, you got to cut all of that out." Yeah, man. It seems like
Dude,
it
do
was
you
a
Leave it
hell
to
have
of
the
a
trained
time, but it also
professionals.
like, what the hell were we doing? What were we doing?
Being kids.
dude, just all the best shit, man. I mean, legitimately all the best shit. Do you have a favorite like do you have like one memory of like one match that you like more than any other? Cuz
One
I
that
mean,
I
I
was
know you
like,
watch a lot of it.
man,
Like what about Hell in the Cell, dude, Mankind and I
oh,
don't know if he was Mankind at the time, but him and
he
the
was.
Undertaker, do you remember
Yeah.
that?
I think those moments like that are the ones that stand out more to me. I remember this one is like not as widely seen, but The Undertaker beat Hulk Hogan for his first title. And it was because Ric Flair helped him out. Ric Flair comes out and slides a chair into the ring, and Undertaker tombstones Hulk Hogan on the chair and pins him. And I remember at the time I was like 9, and I was so sick of Hulk Hogan winning all the time that I lost my shit. And I would play the video games. After that match, I would get on a video game and I would tombstone Hulk Hogan over and over and over and over. Like, I'm gonna beat him like
Oh,
that too.
I'm
I
gonna
was
get your
so
ass.
obsessed with Hulkamania dying that I lost my mind when the Undertaker pinned him. It wasn't a
Oh,
big flashy moment, but it was just me as a 9-year-old or whatever, just excited out of my mind. So that's one that sticks out for me. Um, when Shawn Michaels retired Ric Flair, when he said "I'm sorry, I love you" before he kicked him in the face, it was just cinematic.
oh.
When Stone Cold was fighting Bret Hart and his face was busted open, and even a sharpshooter just bleeding out of his mind, and then he passes out. It's like moments like that that just stick.
Yeah, dude. I mean, yeah, of all the matches I've ever seen, like the one image that's burned into my brain, and I think it was the Undertaker, but he like choke slams Mankind through the top of the cage
Oh
onto
yeah,
like the thumbtacks in the ring. Or like when anybody falls off the cage and like, or like a flying elbow. I think Mankind did that too. He like flying elbow dropped some dude that was on the table, jumped off the top of the fucking cage, dude. Like, I don't care how those tables are built. There is no way that feels good. Or like the Jeff Hardy fucking, my nephew was super into Jeff Hardy. And yeah, him, dude, like when he would do the swanton dive, like, oh man, dude, that shit fires me up so much. When I was down there with him, actually, I went off like my brother and I were trying to do it off a high dive, like the little swanton dive. But, dude, that's so terrifying. Like I can't
yeah,
even imagine those dudes doing that. Like no wonder their
man.
bodies are all mush right now.
Rank.
Oh, they
Oh
got to be
man,
broken in half.
so bad. Yeah, so bad.
So, on that appetizing note, if you had one day left on Earth, what would be your last supper?
Wow, that's a great question. So I'm gonna go
And
backwards. Gonna go backwards because I just had it this weekend for the first time and it changed my fucking life. I have a friend who's a chef from Puerto Rico and she made flan de queso. I didn't know that you could make flan this way, but it's almost a cheesecake consistency. And she made
uh-huh.
it with like this sticky rice and this caramel. I don't remember everything that was in it. I just remember the first bite I took of it, I lost my mind. And I will never forget how good that felt. So I'm going to say
Wow.
that is my dessert. For my entree, I might keep that simple. I'd say a nice medium. Let's go with the filet mignon.
Mhm.
Sliced up and spread out across a bed of garlic mashed potatoes with a little jus on top and some maybe like garlicky, lemony green beans with it. and a glass of the finest red wine in the house.
Mm.
And then for
Paint me a
my
picture, buddy.
Yeah, Jesus.
and then for my appetizer,
Wait, how is the steak cooked, by the way?
got to be medium for me. Got to be medium for me.
Medium, you said.
Medium.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God, not medium rare.
Depending on the restaurant, I might say mid rare because I know they're gonna overcook it. But I don't ever want it to go past medium. That's my limit for steak.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for my appetizer, man, that's a hard one. But I am a taco addict, so there's a restaurant here that makes these ribeye tacos, and they have a little bit of mashed potato at the bottom, and it has like crispy onions on top of the ribeye, and it just has the
Oh, boy.
delicious sauce that they spread on top of the whole thing. That'd be a good way to get this thing started, and I gotta sip that with mezcalita.
Which is like is that a margarita made with mezcal?
Yeah,
Ah,
Yeah.
dude, Abe,
Buddy,
you
now
just-
now we definitely got to go to Mexico.
Yeah, man. And also, like, I've been eating pretty healthy these last few weeks, but man, you got me sold on this mashed potato dream of yours. Like, I haven't had mashed potatoes in a little while with some like garlic mashed, or I actually like the smashed potatoes, but
yeah, that's a good one.
dude, that's a
Haven't made
nice
those in a
little
while.
that's a nice little day you pulled together for yourself. Well, so one of the fun things we like to do is we have some carryover from guest to guest. So you're going to get the question that led us to the question you're about to receive.
Okay.
But before we get into that, we're going to give you the question that actually came from our last guest, Taylor. What fictional character terrified you the most as a child?
In my early childhood, I'd say that it was Freddy Krueger. I thought he was one of the more brilliant horror characters because one thing that none of us can avoid is sleeping. Some of these other things, it's like, oh, don't go to Lake Lanier. Don't go to Camp Crystal Lake. That's easy. I'll never fucking go there. But
Just don't go there. Yeah.
I gotta go to sleep. And the idea that when I inevitably fall asleep, a burnt up Edward Scissorhands will be waiting to kill me, that's terrifying. Then as I got older, right before I hit puberty, I had this dream where I was running through the jungle and there's this loud, thunderous footsteps behind me. And I turn around and it's the fucking Incredible Hulk chasing me through the jungle. No fucking idea why. And out of nowhere, Spider-Man comes in, swinging through the treetops, scoops my little ass up, and swings me away.
Scoops you up.
He scooped me. He swooped in and scooped me up and got me to safety. So I've loved Spider-Man ever since then. And B, I've kind of been, that little meme of the skeptical kid who's kind of like this. That's how I feel about the Incredible Hulk. It's like, are you here to chase me through the jungle again, or are you my friend now? So that's where I am.
It's just so fucking awesome.
So tremendous, dude. You're just,
Oh my god.
like, wait a minute.
I love it.
Yeah. You were supposed to be on our side, but
That laugh and that question came from the Reverend himself. So
Oh man, that's so good. I love it.
passing that along to you. So before we get to the last question, we have to ask you one more.
Yeah.
And it kind of follows suit to that question. What question should we ask the next guest? It could be anything from silly to serious, doesn't matter. Something that you want to pass on to the next person we have on this show.
One of my favorite questions is, it's kind of simple, but it's a fun one to me, is if you could have any superpower, that has ever existed, which one would it be?
Okay. So,
Jason's gonna love that.
yeah, dude, first of all, we're not letting you go without answering that question. And we don't do this to every guest, but like, dude, because if you've thought about that, like, okay, can we do it this way? This is your choice. Choose your own adventure. That also came from Taylor. Do you want to give me yours, or do you want to give me a case why yours is better than mine, and I'll state mine first?
Interesting.
What's it gonna be, bub?
Yeah, okay, let's have some fun with it. We'll go with option B.
Okay. The only superpower that is worth having this day and age, it's teleportation, not even close.
Well, we're on the same page, but because that's my choice.
You know what I mean?
Of course,
you know what I mean?
It's the best.
Like, dude, I mean, I gotta go pee, and I don't want to get up and go over there. Shh. Oh, I want to go get your flan queso candido. Like, dude, we could be doing this live right now. How sick would, like, I would zap over to Devin, grab his wrist and his microphone, and now we're down to you. Right?
Look,
And so Jason and I have talked at absurd lengths about this, but one of them was time travel, and we realized teleportation does that all bundled up in one.
actually kind of, that's a good one too. I
Dude,
think
yeah.
for me, I thought about, so one, I love to travel, obviously. And the idea of skipping out on paying for flights. Hey, look, United, I love you. You made me Premier Silver. You guys take good care of me. But I'd be happy to skip the cost of airfare if I could just teleport everywhere. First of all, I don't even know if I would have a real house. I might just live out of a storage unit and then just take whatever I need with me where I need to go and just come back. Like, I'd be all over the fucking place, man. I'd be like, oh, where does Abe live? Oh, yeah, he lives in a storage facility in Birmingham,
Shit, I don't know, but if you want him, he'll be here.
We just all live in storage units.
just out of here. And then I just teleport to Airbnbs all over the world, like whatever. But yeah,
Dude,
teleportation is everything.
Wait, so this teleportation thing though, are you paying for these places, or are you squatting in people's like places that are like in between guests?
I like that. I might need to partner up with somebody whose superpower is like, one of those people who can manipulate tech. So I need them to let me know where it's empty, like which Airbnbs are not in use. I'll just teleport to those spots, squat a little bit,
Dude, that'd be so sick, and I'd like clean their place up a little bit for them. Like,
yeah.
I'd leave it better than I found it, and
I'll make the bed,
yeah,
wash the sheets, what else?
Amazing.
Dude,
I'm not surprised. Someone that's thought about it, anyone that's thought about it comes to the same conclusion.
Yeah, I have always liked that because I've thought about like super strength. I wouldn't want to live forever because that would just get lonely. That would get so lonely. That would get exhausting. Super strength, invulnerability, all those kinds of things don't sound bad, but I don't think I could get any more mileage out of any other superpower than teleportation.
yeah. Well, and there's also like some weird real world component because like I don't like to be overly realistic all the time, but with the superpower thing, I tend to go really logical. And it's like, because if you did have super strength, like at that point, like you're just working for a government somewhere. Like there's no way they're letting you just be you. Like the good news is if the Hulk was chasing you through the jungle, you could whip his ass.
You just turn around.
Yeah, just stomp him out. But like, yeah, because then like they're just pointing you at everybody they need to go jack up. But like teleportation, like, no one needs to know about that. But living out of I've never even thought about that. Yeah, you literally could live out of a storage unit. That'd be so sick. But you'd be able to like take people with you in your version of it?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like Nightcrawler. I just think about Nightcrawler when I think about that power. And then, if I got arrested for squatting per se, something like that, then I just teleport out of trouble. Yeah,
I'm good. Like you're never stuck anywhere.
Yeah, and so here's a question for you though. Would you then like fuck with the cops and you'd let them like get you in like the shackles in the back of the cop car and then you'd zap out, or would you just zap out before that whole nightmare? Like, what would be more rewarding, I guess?
I probably would be like, if you could merge Nightcrawler and Deadpool, that would probably be me. I would be I would be such a terror because they try to arrest me and then I just teleport on top of the police car and crack a one-liner, teleport away. I would be a nightmare, man. I'd be a nightmare. I'd tell jokes in French and then teleport again. You know.
Dude,
I love it.
the teleportation's so great. All right. So to bring us home, Mr. Edebe Sakum, who do you think we should interview next for the pod? Who do you know that you think would enjoy us, that we'd enjoy, have a good conversation with?
The first person that came to mind was really random. Is my friend Michael here. He has lived a very interesting life. He's been involved in like journalism and music industries, and he knows a lot about film industry. And I just find the way that he writes about and describes the art, I've always found it really interesting. So I try to read as much of his writing as possible. You know, whenever a new movie comes out, TV show, anything, any of those artistic mediums, I enjoy the way that he speaks about them. So I think he's the first person that came to mind very randomly.
Okay.
Cool. Well,
That's
yeah, I
it.
mean, if you're cool with it, if you wouldn't mind reaching out to him, and if he says no, he says no, but
Yeah.
And even if he
be
does
great.
say no, send us some of his articles because if you enjoy it, I'm sure we would too. And I'd love to read some
Yeah.
of his stuff.
That's a fair
Absolutely.
point.
Absolutely.
Well, Big Abe, man, it is so exciting to see you. I'm so happy to hear that, you're down there finding peace, that you founded Flow with 8A Bay. And it's cool to catch up, man. And we really, really appreciate your time because we know we're, asking people that we've known in our prior lives to spend some time with us, and you're taking time out of your week to do it. We really appreciate you, man, and awesome to see you.
I appreciate y'all both, man. Missed your faces, and I'm really happy to have had this convo with you.
Right back at you, buddy.
And
Well, that concludes this episode, but we can continue chatting if we would like to. Go ahead, Jay.